Hello, it's Courtney with C. Clark Creative. Thanks for stopping by. I've got more masculine cards today. I'm on a bit of a roll and building up my stash a little bit with some masculine cards, which I was definitely in need of. So I'm going to start off this first card with the Diamond Tiles background stamp from Fresh Studio. And the color palette for this card is some Gina K inks. I've got Kraft, Red Velvet, and Plum Punch. And then I'm using some dynamics from My Favorite Things. I have the stitched squares. This square fits right into that diamond pattern perfectly. It is the 2 5/8 inch square. I think it's the third smallest in the set. And then I'm also using the Best Wishes die. I'm also using some Gina K Cardstock, Kraft, and Red Velvet that matches, coordinating with those two ink colors. So we're going to start by stamping on a card panel, which is going to be Neenah, Solar, Crest, 80 pound. And then for die cutting and my stamp panel, and then my card base is going to be the 110 pound card base. Again, the Neenah Solar White Classic Crest. So to start off, I'm going to grab my Misti and get this diamond tiles mounted to the lid and then use some repositionable adhesive to get my card panel stuck down to the base there. And I'm going to do a fun technique that is multicolored stamping, but being very simple with it. I'm going to start with the lightest color, move on to the darkest. So it's pretty fast to do as well because there's no cleaning in between. I do 2 rounds of stamps, so I do clean between the 2 rounds because I end up with the dark color, start back with the lighter color, but moving between from lightest to darkest, I do not clean the stamp. I just kind of move, and it also helps me see where I've stamped already. So essentially what I do is I start with Kraft and just ink parts of the stamp. Keep it loose. You can do this technique and be more prescriptive with how you're placing ink down, but I just kind of move the stamp around different areas and then stamp, and then when I move on to the next color and try to ink some of the same area, some of different areas, and then move on to the third color and do the same thing. So I get quite a random pattern. And then just to blend the colors a little bit better, I repeat the process from lightest to darkest, stamping all 3 colors individually a second time, and that just helps blend the colors together a little bit so there's not as many harsh lines from the edge of the ink pad. So now what I'm doing is just laying out the card a little bit. Just got some scraps here that I'm going to use to die cut. That square is coming out of the Kraft, and then the sentiment is going to come from the top layer, at least from the Red Velvet. I do 2 additional layers from white cardstock because I layer 3 cardstock layers together to create a little bit more dimension. So here you can see the diamond pattern is offset a little bit. So I'm trimming down my card panel and trying to account for that so that I can get that Kraft square in the middle. I did cut down that panel to 4 3/4 by 3 1/2. Just using that Kraft square to help align and really visualize how everything's going to go together there. So I'm just using Gina K Connect liquid glue to adhere my layers together, and I've got the tittle there as well. The tittle's the dot on the eye. With a larger tittle, I will glue them on. Sometimes as you'll see in the next card, I will use Nuvo drops instead of trying to deal with that little teeny dot. Here, that was just my electric eraser to clean up some of that glue or some ink marks. And then we're moving on to the next card. So this card uses the Fresh Studio Pop Out Sunburst stamp. This is a really fun stamp because you can pop out the different portions to stamp individual colors really well. So again, I'm using Gina K ink. I'm using blue denim, wild dandelion, and tangerine twist. And then more, my favorite things, dynamics. I have stitched rectangles and the happy birthday die. So this stitched rectangle is the 2 inches by 3 1/4 inches rectangle. I like my sentiment to overhang my shape a little bit for both these cards. I just think it gives a little bit more interest. So to mount this stamp, what I'm going to do is mount this opposite of what I normally do. I place the Pop Out stamp directly onto the lid and make sure it's pressed on all the way. And then I put my card panel on top of it, put some repositionable adhesive, and then close the Misti upside down, flip it over, and that way I can make sure that I've got a good alignment for my card panel and the stamp. This is because I do not plan on trimming down this card panel, so I did want it to stamp pretty centered. So with this pop out, I'm going to start by taking off the outer edge because I don't plan on stamping that, and there are 18 rays on this sun, which is divisible by 3. So that gives me, I'll have 6 of each color sun ray. So I basically start in one spot and then take the next 2 rays out. So if I was to number them, ray 1 stays on, ray 2 and 3 comes off. So I start with my lightest color, ink and stamp. And then to get the next color ray in, what I do is I grab what would be ray number 2, place it next to the first before I remove that first ray. And then I go around and do that to help orient all these rays. Once I get those all in place, I ink and stamp, and then I move on to the third ray. Now here you'll see I got a little bit ahead of myself and removed the ray before I had put that third ray on. Easy to fix because I still have all the other rays on there. So you'll see right here I took it off. I'm like, oh shoot, I didn't put it there. That's okay. All I have to do is build it up from one of those other rays. So placing them back in position until I get to the ray that I should have placed, and I'm good. So then I can move around, replacing all the rays to get the proper one in place. And then I will ink and stamp with my third color. And then my multicolored sunburst is complete. I love how easy it is to achieve this multicolored look with these stamp sets. It's really fun to play with. And I can see so many possibilities for different color schemes and ways to use this stamp. And then I will move on to getting my die cutting prepared. Again, I'm going to be cutting 3 sets of the sentiment. The top will be from the blue denim, the other 2 layers just from Neenah 80-pound white cardstock. And then that square will be from wild dandelion cardstock. I glue all the layers together using Gina K Connect glue. There's the tittle. I'm just tossing that away. I'm not even going to try to keep track of it. I'm going to use the Nouveau crystal drops for the tittle on this. So I've got all my sentiment adhered. I'm going to get that on this die cut rectangle with liquid adhesive. Then I'm going to use Scotch foam tape to pop up this panel a little bit. So once I get these together, I will put the Sunburst card panel onto an A2 card base. Put this card panel on. There's the Scotch foam tape. And then I will use Nouveau drops to put that eye on, and then the card will be complete. The Nouveau crystal drops that I'm using here are Midnight Blue. And then I always give a little tap to help the drops settle a little bit. So thank you for joining me today for a few more masculine cards. Hope this inspires you to get in your craft room and create some masculine cards for your stash as well. See you soon.